For 3 days after the meteor crisis, the Horizon Spire floated in a calm orbit, almost peaceful. Repairs were moving steadily, systems were stabilizing. And every Valerie scientist now carried a copy of the Hale Adaptation Unit, the device based on Mason Hale's Strange. Resilient biology life finally felt normal, but peace never lasted long in deep space. On the 4th day, at exactly 0400 station time, an alert echoed in the main communications wing. A signal. A signal from somewhere no one expected. Commander Ryla arrived first. Her footsteps were sharp, focused. Velen and Tasheri followed quickly, still pulling on their uniforms. Mason Hale stood near the console, staring at the screen with his eyebrows raised. "You're up early," Ryla said, coming beside him. Mason shrugged. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd tinker with the cum system. Then it started yelling at me." Ryla turned to Tasheri. "Report." Tasheri tapped a glowing blue panel. "We are receiving a communication pulse from outside our known charts. No coordinates match." Velen added, "It is not a meteor, not debris, not a natural signal. It is structured," Tasheri said softly. "Someone is trying to reach us." Mason crossed his arms. "Like a message?" "Yes," Velen replied. "But the language is unknown. And the rhythm." She paused, confused. "It feels intentional. Almost like a pattern." Ryla's eyes narrowed. "Put it on speakers." Tasheri hesitated. "Commander, it could be dangerous." Ryla shook her head. "Knowledge is never the enemy." "Fear is," Tasheri obeyed. A strange sound filled the room, a low, pulsing tone repeating every few seconds. It was rhythmic, but not musical, structured but not like speech. Yet it did not feel hostile, just unfamiliar. Mason tilted his head. "Sounds like someone knocking." Ryla turned to him. "Knocking?" "Yeah," Mason said. "Like knocking on a door, waiting to see if someone's home." Tasheri blinked. "Human analogies are strange, but accurate." Ryla folded her arms. "Can we locate the source?" "Trying," Velen said, typing rapidly. "It is far beyond our patrol perimeter, much farther than the boundaries of Valerie territory." "So, a new species?" Mason asked. Ryla gave him a steady look. "Possibly." The room went silent. Meeting an unknown species was rare and carried risks. Some civilizations were peaceful, others were territorial, and some were desperate. Tasheri suddenly gasped. "Commander, the signal is increasing in strength." Valen's fingers flew over the console. "It is not coming toward us. It is pulling us toward it." Mason frowned. "How can a signal drag a space station?" "It can't," Tasheri said, "unless a deep vibration traveled through the floor, making everyone tense." Ryla's eyes widened. "Unless the space around us is being bent." Mason blinked. "Come again?" Velen swallowed. "Something is creating a gravitational ripple, like a wave in space. It is guiding us." Mason stared. "So, we're being invited somewhere?" Tasheri whispered, or summoned. A choice to make the Horizon Spire did not move fast, but the gravitational wave was persistent, gentle, and precise. It nudged the station like a soft current in deep water. After 2 hours, the pool stopped. Ryla gathered the senior crew in the observation deck. Mason sat with them, though technically he still had no rank on the station. But after the previous events, Ryla insisted he attend every important meeting. Tasheri projected a hologram into the center of the Ruma map, showing the station's current position. "We are here," she said. "This area has no known civilizations, no trade routes, nothing." "Until now," Velen added. Ryla leaned forward. "Are there any ships nearby?" "No," Tasheri replied. "But the signal is coming from a single point. A stationary object." "What kind of object?" Mason asked. Velen hesitated. "We do not know. The scans cannot read it clearly. It is covered by some sort of energy field." Ryla tapped her fingers on the table. "We cannot leave this unknown unattended. We must investigate." The room shifted with tension. Commander Velen said nervously. It could be a trap. Ryla nodded slowly. Every unknown can be a trap. But the galaxy expands through those who dare to understand, not those who hide. Mason spoke up. Then we go together. But carefully. There was a moment of silence. Ryla allowed herself a small smile. Yes, carefully. Approaching the Source shuttle was prepared small, fast, and easy to maneuver. Ryla chose the crew herself. Teshari for communications, Velen for analysis, and Mason because Mason had proven to be surprisingly useful in unpredictable situations. Mason buckled in, glancing at the Valerie women. Feels like we're forming a team, Ryla corrected him calmly. You are not officially part of the crew, Mason grinned. But you brought me anyway. Ryla paused. Yes. I did. The shuttle detached from the horizon spire and glided into open space. The signal grew clearer, vibrating through the vessel like a heartbeat. The object soon came into view. At first it looked like a small moon. Then, as they moved closer, they realized it wasn't natural. The surface was covered in geometric shapes, shifting lights and smooth metallic lines. It floated silently, like a sleeping giant waiting to be awakened. Teshari whispered, "It is beautiful," and old Velen added, "Older than any Valari structure. Maybe older than both our civilizations." Mason leaned forward. "Are we sure it's not a ship?" Ryla narrowed her eyes. "It could be many things, but it is not empty." Teshari's console beeped. "Commander, the energy field is scanning us." Mason stiffened. "Scanning? For what?" "Life signs," Teshari said quietly. "It is studying us. The same way we are studying it." Ryla kept her voice calm. "Do not panic. If it wanted to harm us, it would have done so before we even saw it." Mason raised an eyebrow. "That doesn't make me feel much better." The shuttle stopped at a safe distance. Hovering before the enormous metallic sphere, suddenly, a line of blue light traced across the surface. Another line, then another, until a large circular door formed and opened. A soft glow spilled out. Teshari whispered, "It is inviting us inside." Mason exhaled. "Great. Another mysterious place to walk into." Ryla turned to him. "You handled the last one rather well." "Yeah," Mason muttered. "But this time, I'd like to stay conscious." Inside the unknown, the shuttle floated through the glowing entrance. The interior was wide and hollow. It's like the inside of a giant mechanical cavern. But there was something else. Floating platform in the center. Ryla guided the shuttle toward it. "Prepare to disembark." They stepped onto the platform, boots echoing softly. Strange symbols covered the floor-glowing lines. Smooth curves, pulsing shapes. None matched any Valari or human script. Mason knelt down. "It's like writing, but also like a circuit board." Velen scanned it. "This structure is alive in some way, not biological, but reactive." Teshari swallowed nervously. "Commander, something is happening." The lights around them shifted, forming patterns in the air like holograms. A soft voice echoed not in sound, but in their minds, "Identify." Mason jerked upright. "Okay, that's new." Ryla steadied herself. "We are explorers. We come in peace." The voice responded. "One of you is unfamiliar." Their eyes moved instantly toward Mason. He raised his hands. "Hey, I'm harmless." The voice echoed again. "Your structure does not match. Your origin. Not recorded. Your design. Unexpected." Alice stepped forward. "He is a human. A species from a distant world." Silence. Then human. Uncatalogued. Unstudied. Curious. Mason blinked. "Are they talking about me like I'm a science exhibit?" Velen whispered, "You are unusual." The glowing patterns formed a shape, a sphere, like a small version of the giant structure around them. Then the voice spoke. "Clearly, we have searched for adaptive species. We seek those who survive the unpredictable. Your kind may be among them." Teshari looked at Mason with wide eyes. "They contacted us because of you." Mason felt his stomach twist. "Me? Why me?" Ryla answered softly. Because you survive what others cannot. Even our scientists could not explain it. The voice echoed. Human. Step forward. Mason hesitated. Ryla placed a hand on his arm. If you do not want to, he shook his head. No, I'll go. But stay close. He walked onto the circular center of the platform. The light scanned him gently, ever painful, only curious. The voice spoke again. Human, you are the first of your kind we have found. We will share our knowledge. But only if you prove your intent. Mason swallowed. What do you mean? The platform beneath him began to glow brighter. Ryla shouted, Mason! Tashari gasped. Commander. It is activating something. Mason stood still, heart pounding but strangely calm, because something in the light felt familiar, comforting, like a door opening. The voice spoke one last time. Prepare. You are the beginning. And the platform lit up like a rising star. The Horizon Spire drifted quietly through orbit, slowly returning to normal life after the meteor disaster. Systems had stabilized. Lights glowed calmly, and the crew moved through the hallways with a sense of relief. But inside the research labs, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement, curiosity, and urgency. Today was different. Today, the Valerie scientists believed they had a breakthrough, one inspired completely by a single, human's unusual biology. Commander. Ryla walked quickly toward the main laboratory. She carried her usual calm expression, but inside, her thoughts were racing. The data they had collected from Mason Hale was already changing everything they knew about adaptive physiology. If they succeeded today, the entire station, and maybe many others in the galaxy, would operate more safely in the future. She stepped inside the lab. Mason A was already there. Leaning casually against a table while watching Velen assemble a strange, clear device shaped like a mask, Tessieri stood next to her, typing fast on a console. Mason spotted Ryla and waved. Morning, Commander. I didn't break anything yet. Ryla sighed softly. Please, do not start the morning like that. Mason grinned. It's a joke. All your jokes sound like warnings, she replied. Mason laughed, and Ryla tried, without success, to hide the small shift of amusement across her face. Tashari called out, Commander, we are almost ready for the first test. Ryla walked over. Explain the design again, Velen. Velen lifted the transparent device. We are using the data from Mason's adaptive respiratory patterns. His lungs adjust quickly to low oxygen and trace gases. We cannot change Valerie biology, but we can artificially mimic human adaptability. How? Ryla asked. This mask, Velen said proudly, filters the air, adjusts oxygen levels instantly, and stabilizes pressure in real time. It reacts the way a human body does. Mason whistled. So it's a human lung simulator? In simple words, yes, Velen replied. Tashari added, if it works, Velari crew members will survive longer in unstable environments. They could reach damaged sectors without collapsing. Ryla nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. And who will test it? Tashari and Velen both looked at her. Finally, Velen said softly, it must be a Valerie. The goal is to protect us. Ryla took a deep breath. Then I will do it. Tashari's eyes widened. Commander, that is dangerous. Ryla shook her head. I will not ask another to risk a test I fear myself. But Mason stepped forward. Hold on, let me go with you. Tashari waved her hands quickly. No. Humans do not need this device. You can survive without it. The test is only for Vylari, Mason frowned. I meant I should be nearby. If anything goes wrong, I can pull her out. Velen considered this. That could be useful. Ryla looked at Mason. Are you certain you want to accompany me into a damaged sector again? Mason shrugged. I already slept in one. Might as well make it a hobby. Ryla stared at him, unsure whether to scold him or laugh. You are impossible and helpful, Mason added. Ryla gave a small nod. Yes, helpful. Entering the danger zone, the test was set for the same corridor where Mason had done the repairs. the same place where he had accidentally fallen asleep in dangerous air. The area still needed full restoration, and its atmosphere was far from stable. Ryla placed the transparent mask over her face. The device activated instantly, glowing faint blue as it calibrated to her lungs. "Can you breathe normally?" Tashari asked through the communicator. Ryla inhaled deeply. "Yes, it feels comfortable." Mason checked his toolkit and then gestured. "All right, Commander. After you." They stepped into the damaged corridor. The door shut behind them, sealing them inside. Immediately, the air changed. Ryla felt the environment pressing against her mask trace gases, heat fluctuations, uneven pressure. Without the device, Valerie would collapse within seconds. But she stood tall. She breathed steadily. She felt no pain. Mason watched her closely. "You okay?" "Yes," Ryla answered, surprised. "I feel completely normal." Small lights on her mask flickered rapidly signs. It was adjusting to the environment with every breath. Tashari's voice crackled through the comms. "Commander, your readings are stable. The device is working," Bellin added excitedly. "This could save lives during hull breaches." Ryla walked a little further into the corridor, her movements confident. "Increase environmental stress for the test." Commander Tashari began. "Do it," Ella ordered. The corridor's safety systems released more trace gases still within safe testing range, but harmful to a Valerie without protection. The mask reacted instantly, filtering and stabilizing her breathing. Mason watched in amazement. "This thing is holding up better than I expected." Ryla glanced at him. "You inspired this technology." Mason rubbed his neck. "I only slept and fixed some wires." "You survived what others could not," she said firmly. "That alone is inspiration." He smiled, but said nothing. Unexpected crisis, just as the test seemed successful. An alarm blared overhead. "Warning, secondary meteor shower approaching. Impact probability high. Brace for collision." Mason froze. "You have got to be kidding me." Ryla's eyes sharpened. "We must return to the protected sector immediately." But before they could move, a sudden rumble shook the station. The lights flickered violently. 2 small impacts struck the outer hull. Then the worst sound echoed through the corridors, a deep metal groan. Mason's heart jumped. The hull. A thin crack opened in the ceiling, releasing a burst of air and dust. Pressure dropped sharply. Ryla staggered, her mask compensating as fast as it could. Tashari shouted through the comms commander. "Mason, get out of there now." Mason grabbed Ryla's arm. "We need to move." The corridor trembled as another meteor struck somewhere above. More cracks spread across the wall. Ryla tried to keep her balance. "The device is working, but the structure is unstable." Mason looked ahead. The next door was sealed. He cursed under his breath. Velen shouted from the comms. "We are trying to override the door, but the system is jammed." Ryla steadied her breathing. "The sector is pressurizing unevenly. That means this corridor might collapse," Mason said. He pulled Ryla toward a reinforced support wall. "Stand here. Keep your balance." She obeyed, but her eyes remained on him. "What will you do?" Mason cracked his knuckles. "Fix the door again." Ryla stared. "In these conditions?" Mason grinned. "Hey, my lungs already know how to handle this." Even under pressure, surrounded by danger, he stayed calm. That unusual human instinct for problem-solving under stress kicked in. He rushed to the wall panel, pried it open, and started reconnecting loose wires. Ryla watched him, feeling something she had rarely felt before, true admiration. He moved fast, guided by instinct and experience. The air grew thinner, but his breathing steady. The station shook again, harder this time. "Come on." "Come on," Mason muttered, tightening one last connection. The door sprang open. "Go." He shouted. Ryla pushed off the wall, running beside him. They crossed the threshold just as a loud crack echoed behind them. The corridor they had just left sagged downward. Dangerously close to collapse, the door sealed shut. They leaned against the wall. Breathing heavily, Tashar's voice burst through the combs. Commander Mason, are you injured? Ryla responded, calm but breathless. We are safe. The test device worked. Perfectly. Mason gave a tired smile. Yeah, it passed the extreme stress test. A new era of safety back in the laboratory. Tashari and Velen helped Ryla remove the mask. It was glowing faintly, but undamaged. Velen examined it with trembling excitement. Commander, this device saved you. It reacted to every environmental shift. Tashari nodded. It keeps Valari alive, in conditions we never imagined possible. Ryla looked at Mason with deep respect. Your biology inspired this. Humanity's resilience will protect countless lives. Mason felt warmth rise in his chest. I'm glad. Really glad. He glanced at the mask. So, what will you call it? Velen smiled. The Hale Adaptation Unit. Mason blinked. Named after me? Of course, Ryla said. You earned it. Mason rubbed the back of his neck, overwhelmed. Well, that's something I never expected. Ryla stepped closer. Mason Hale. Today you did more than survive. You helped us survive. The Valari women looked at him with respect that went beyond gratitude. It was recognition, acknowledgement of humanity's strange strength, and today was only the beginning of how that strength would reshape the galaxy. The next morning on the Horizon Spire, the lights brightened slowly to mimic sunrise. The Valari preferred calm transitions, soft colors, and quiet mornings. Humans, on the other hand, often liked loud alarms and bright sunlight. This difference amused Commander Ryla as she walked down the corridor toward the medical wing. She was not usually amused by anything, but today was not a normal day. Today, they would run tests on the human who slept in a dangerous atmosphere and survived as if nothing unusual had happened. Today, they might finally understand why humans were so strangely resilient. Ryla entered the medical wing and found Mason Hale sitting on the edge of the medical platform. Swinging his legs like a bored child, he had already changed into a simple station uniform, dark blue, slightly wrinkled and obviously too big for him. Tashari stood nearby, preparing medical tools with slow, careful movements. Velen worked on setting up a holographic display filled with charts and graphs. Mason looked at all of them and groaned. This looks like a school exam. Ryla raised an eyebrow. It is not an exam. It is scientific analysis. Even worse, Mason joked. Velen glanced at him with bright curiosity. This will not hurt. We only want to understand how you survived yesterday's environment without showing damage. Mason shrugged. All right. Test away. Tashari stepped forward with a scanning wand. Please sit still. Mason lifted his hands in surrender. I'll be a statue. The scanning wand glowed blue as it passed over his chest, arms, and head. A calm hum filled the room. Mason felt nothing. No heat, no prickling. No discomfort, just the soft air blowing from the machine. Ryla watched closely. Begin with his lungs. Shari nodded, tapping her console. A new display appeared, showing a 3D model of Mason's respiratory system. The Valari women leaned closer, and then they all froze. Is that normal? Velen whispered. For humans, I do not know, Tashari answered. The scan showed something unusual. Mason's lungs had fast-moving patterns of micro-adjustments, tiny shifts in oxygen absorption, pressure control, and cell reaction. These patterns should only occur in extreme survival situations, Velen said slowly. Yet his body shows no stress. It is automatic, Tashari added. His biology adapts without conscious effort. Ryla crossed her arms. So while our bodies panic in harmful environments, his body simply changes to match it. Yes, Velen said. His physiology responds with flexibility instead of fear. Mason looked confused. So you're saying my body just solves problems by itself? In a way, Tashari replied, your species evolved in unpredictable climates. Your biology carries thousands of small survival mechanisms. Ryla studied Mason's calm expression. You humans are full of hidden strengths. Mason rubbed his neck shyly. We just call it being stubborn. The stress response test Velen activated the next round of diagnostics. Now we will test your stress response. Mason raised a hand. What does that mean? You gonna jump scare me? Tashari shook her head. Of course not. We will show mild stimuli and observe your reaction. Mild, Mason repeated slowly. Okay, that sounds less terrifying. The lights dimmed. A hologram appeared around him, simulating a lightly shaking platform, flickering lights, and low alarm tones. Not dangerous, just uncomfortable. Ryla watched his pulse reading. Mason looked around calmly. This is relaxing compared to yesterday. Tashari sighed. This is supposed to cause stress. Ryla leaned closer to the monitors. His pulse barely changed. Commander, look at his hormone response. The chart showed spikes, but not the expected kind. Instead of stress hormones rising in a harmful way, they seemed to strengthen his muscles and sharpen his focus. His stress hormones improve performance, Velen explained in awe. Instead of weakening him, they make him more alert and stronger. Ryla stared at Mason. That is, very unlike most species, Mason shrugged. Humans get productive when panic hits. We call it working under pressure. The Valerie women exchanged stunned glances. The physical testrialist stepped forward. Let us test his durability as well. Mason raised both eyebrows. Durability? Should I be scared? No, Tashari assured him. It is simple. You will lift objects of increasing weight. Nothing harmful. All right, Mason said with a grin. I can lift things. The platform shifted, bringing out metal blocks of various sizes. Mason lifted one easily, then another, and another. Even when he reached a weight meant to challenge Valerie soldiers, he managed it with only slight effort. Valen recorded readings. His muscles generate short bursts of surprising strength. Allah nodded. This explains why humans can perform heavy labor without advanced machinery. Mason adjusted his grip and lifted the next block. We do have machines, you know. Yet your species evolved to handle physical challenges, Velen replied. It is impressive. Mason placed the block down and exhaled. Okay, that one was actually heavy. Mason wiped his forehead with a sleeve. So what's next? You want me to run laps? Ryla shook her head. No more physical tasks. We do not want to exhaust you, Mason smiled.
Thanks.
You're nicer than yesterday. Ryla blinked. I was worried yesterday. Mason chuckled. You hit it well. The Valerie commander said nothing, but her cheeks shifted slightly in color of Valari, sign of mild embarrassment. Unexpected discovery. Velen activated one more scan, this one focusing on Mason's microcells. She gasped softly as the readings appeared. Tashari, look at this. Shari leaned over her shoulder. Her eyes widened. This is extraordinary. Ryla stepped closer. Explain. Velen pointed at the glowing blue patterns. Human cells show redundancy. If one part is damaged, another part supports it instantly. They can repair micro-injuries in minutes. Tashari nodded. This explains why he shows no damage from breathing dangerous air. Ella stared at the graph. So human bodies are naturally prepared for danger? Yes, Velen said. It is like their biology expects harsh conditions. Mason scratched his chin. Well, Earth can be a rough place. Hurricanes, volcanoes, freezing winters, desert slots of things trying to kill you. Kaishari muttered, Your planet sounds unpleasant. Mason laughed. It keeps life interesting. Ryla shook her head. Humans willingly live on such a world. All the time, Commander exhaled. Then, perhaps your species became strong because your world demanded it. Velen gazed at Mason with awe. This information could change how we design station environments. Maybe we can use human resilience as a model. Mason raised an eyebrow. You want to redesign things because of me? Not just you, Velen said. All humans. Tashari added softly. Your biology might help save lives. Mason frowned thoughtfully. Well, I'm glad I can help. A moment of reflection, the tests ended at last. Mason sat back on the medical platform while the Valari women reviewed their findings in hushed voices. Ryla approached him after a moment. Mason Hale, He looked up. Yeah, you have shown us something important. Your species is not fragile. You are adaptable and strong in ways we did not understand. Mason smiled gently. Thanks. Humans just do what they can. Ryla nodded. You did more than that. You showed courage and calm when danger surrounded you. Mason shrugged. Someone had to fix the station. Yes, Ryla agreed. But only a human could have done it in that environment. Mason looked away, modest and slightly embarrassed. Tashari stepped closer. You should rest. Your body may be strong, but it still needs recovery. Mason nodded. Yeah, I can definitely use a nap. Preferably not in a dangerous corridor this time. The Valar women exchanged soft laughter, an unusual sound among their species. As Mason settled onto the medical bed, the three women stood together speaking quietly. He is unlike any subject I have studied, Belen whispered. Humans may unlock new medical knowledge, Tashari said, Ryla added quietly, and he has earned our deepest respect. They watched as Mason finally closed his eyes. Resting safely this time, little did any of them know, they were only beginning to understand what humans were truly capable of. The research station was finally calm. The alarms faded one by one, and the flashing red lights shifted back to a steady white glow. For the Valerie crew, this was a sign of safety, a sign that the worst was over. But for Commander Ryla, Magnetic Tashari, and biologist Velen, something else demanded their attention. On the screen before them, Lieutenant Mason Hale was still asleep in the hazardous sector. The three alien women stood close together, staring with disbelief. He should not be alive, Tashari said softly, her voice filled with worry and confusion. This area is unsafe even for short exposure. Elon tilted her head. But he is not only alive, he is resting. Calm. No distress signs. Ryla kept her arms folded, her face serious. Humans continue to surprise me. They watched as Mason's chest rose and fell slowly, peacefully. He looked almost comfortable even though the environment around him was still unstable and far below Valari's safety standards. Ryla straightened. We must go down there, she said. He risked his life to protect us. Now we must check on him. Chessieri hesitated. The area is still dangerous for us. Then we proceed with protective shields, Ryla replied. We will not leave him there alone. The three women prepared quickly, suiting up in lightweight environmental shields that shimmered like transparent glass. They moved through the secure corridor, each step echoing through the metal walkway. As the door slid open to the damaged sector, a wave of strange-smelling air drifted toward them. It made all three women flinch. Their bodies reacted instantly, Valar lungs tightening, skin sensors stinging. This atmosphere is unstable, Tashari warned. We must stay close to the shields. They stepped inside. The damaged corridor was dim, lit only by flickering emergency lights. Pieces of broken paneling lay scattered across the floor. Thin smoke curled from an open wall junction, yet right in the middle of this chaos, Mason slept as peacefully as if he were on a warm beach. He lay in the small maintenance alcove, head resting against the wall, his breathing steady and quiet. Ryla, Tashari, and Velen stared at him with a mixture of shock and amazement. He has no protective mask, Velen whispered. No shield. No oxygen support. He shouldn't even be conscious, Tashari added. But look at him. His body is acting like this is normal. Ryla stepped closer, studying the human carefully. Humans endured many harsh environments on their homeworld, she said quietly. But I did not imagine this level of resistance. The alien commander reached out, gently shaking Mason's shoulder. Mason Hale, she called. Wake up. At first, nothing happened. Mason only shifted a little, his eyebrows tightening as if annoyed by the interruption. Ryla shook him again, more firmly. Finally, his eyes opened. He blinked slowly, as though waking from a deep, heavy sleep. He looked up and saw three anxious alien faces staring at him through glowing shields. Oh, he muttered. Right. I'm supposed to be somewhere safe, aren't I? Yes, Tashari blurted out. What were you thinking? Mason sat up slowly, rubbing his face. I wasn't thinking. I was tired. I finished the repairs. And I guess I just sat down for a second. You slept, Velen corrected gently. In this environment? Mason shrugged. Yeah, why? The three Valerie exchanged looks. Why? There were at least 50 reasons why this should have killed him. Tashari stepped forward, her voice stern. Humans are not supposed to breathe this. These gases are unsafe. The oxygen level is too low. You should feel dizzy, short of breath, tired, weak, something. Mason blinked again. I feel fine. Impossible, Velen whispered. Ryla crouched slightly to meet his eyes. Lieutenant Hale, we must take you back to the protected sector. We need to run scans on you, Mason groaned, but nodded. Yeah. Fair enough. He pushed himself to his feet, wobbling only slightly from sleep. Ryla offered her hand for support. Mason accepted it with a tired smile. Together, the four walked back through the corridor. The Veilari women staying close to their shield barriers while Mason walked casually behind them, not even bothered by the air. Shari kept glancing at him in disbelief. He is walking like nothing is wrong, she whispered. Humans are beyond strange, Velen replied. Ryla said nothing, but her expression was thoughtful. When they reached the protected sector, the door sealed behind them with a soft hiss. Fresh, clean, Valeris standard air filled the chamber, sterile, filtered, and safe. Mason inhaled deeply. Okay, he admitted, this air does feel pretty good after the last place. Shari sighed. You continue to test my medical training. They guided him to the medical platform, where a series of floating scanners activated. Velen adjusted the settings while Tashari prepared diagnostic tools. Ryla stood nearby, watching carefully. The scans began. Soft lights brushed across Mason's body. Heart rate normal, Tashari murmured. Temperature stable, Velen added. Lung function. Unusual, Tashari said. Very unusual. Mason frowned. Is that bad? No, Velen answered quickly. Just different. Your lungs changed their breathing pattern to match the hazardous air. It looks like your body adapted within minutes, Mason stared. Wait, adapted? On purpose? Your body did it automatically, Velen explained. Valerie bodies cannot do that. Our biology is sensitive. Even small changes in atmosphere create damage. Ryla stepped closer. But you, Mason Hale, you simply fell asleep. Mason scratched his head. I guess humans are just built tough? Tashari shook her head. Not tough. Something else. Something we don't fully understand yet? She pointed to a holographic chart. Your immune system reacted instantly. It reduced stress buildup, adjusted oxygen usage, and balanced your cells to handle trace gases, Velen added. It is like your body treated the dangerous environment as a normal change. Mason gave a weak laugh. Yeah, humans back home deal with all kinds of rough climates. Maybe it's the same idea. Ryla studied him closely. There was respect in her eyes, deep respect, mixed with a growing curiosity. Mason, she said, you did more than repair the station. You showed us something about your species we did not know. He blinked. Like what? That humans, she said, can survive where others cannot. Tashari added softly. You slept in an area that would collapse the lungs of most species. You did not even show stress. Mason looked genuinely surprised. Wow, I didn't realize it was that bad, Ryla said. And yet you did not fear it, Mason shrugged lightly. I guess when something needs fixing, you just do the job. Fear comes later. The three Veilari exchanged another glance. This was the part of humanity. They still struggled to understand, not just toughness, but the strange combination of calm, stubbornness, and instinctive confidence. Ryla finally spoke again. Mason Hale, I am grateful. The entire crew is grateful. You've saved us. Mason rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. Just doing what anyone would? No, Tashari said firmly. No one else could. The room grew quiet. Velen closed her scanner with a thoughtful hum. "Commander," she said, with permission, "I would like to continue studying human adaptive biology. This trait could help more species survive emergencies." Ryla nodded slowly. "Yes, I agree." Mason raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you want to study me?" "Only with your consent," Velen replied. "No harm, only observation. Your body may hold answers that help millions." Mason crossed his arms, thinking. "All right," he said at last. "If it helps people, I'm in." Teshari smiled, an expression rare among Valari. "Then we begin tomorrow." Ryla gave a respectful nod. "Rest for now, Mason Hale. You have earned it." Mason stretched out on the medical platform, exhausted again. But this time, he closed his eyes and clean. Safe air surrounded by allies who were now more curious about his species than ever before. The Valari women stepped back, still whispering to each other about the human anomaly, the human who slept in danger, adapted to the impossible, and walked out unharmed. It was only the beginning of what they would discover. The research station Horizon Spire floated in silent orbit above the blue-white curve of a distant planet. From far away, it looked peaceful and calm, like a silver ring gliding through space. But inside, alarms flashed red across the corridors, and vibrations shook the metal floor under every step. Lieutenant Mason Hale, human engineer and one of the few humans posted at the station, ran through the narrow passageway with a toolkit strapped to his shoulder. The air smelled faintly of burning metal, a sign that electrical panels were overheating somewhere deeper inside the ship. Sparks flickered above him as he reached the next junction. The meteor shard had hit only 20 minutes earlier, tearing through 2 outer layers of the station like a blade through cloth. And even though the emergency shields had snapped into place afterward, the damage was severe enough to threaten oxygen levels, power flow, and structural stability. Mason knew the situation could get worse within minutes. The rest of the crew, mostly members of the Valari, a tall, slender alien species with shimmering eyes and pale, patterned skin, had already evacuated to the protected sector on the far side of the station. That area had reinforced walls, emergency oxygen, and full medical support. They were safe there. Mason, however, was not. He had refused to leave when Commander Ryla ordered evacuation. "Human," she had said, her voice tense and formal through the cum, "get to the secure sector immediately. The hull in your area is unstable." But Mason had looked at the flickering lights, the rising temperature on his console, and the warning indicators that told him 3 critical systems were collapsing. If he left, the damage might spread. If he left, the entire station might fail. "I can stabilize it," he had answered before she could protest. "Just give me 10 minutes. Now he had already spent 15. The station groaned around him, metal stretching under pressure. He stopped at a wall panel, flashing orange. Oxygen flow, regulator damaged. He opened the panel, pulled out a tangled cluster of wires, and worked quickly. His hands moved with calm focus, even though sweat beaded on his forehead. The atmosphere mixture in this section was shifting less oxygen, more trace gases from the damaged filters. The Valari would already be unconscious at these levels, but humans. Well, humans could push through it for a while. A soft hiss told him the regulator was back online. "That's one," he muttered. He wiped his forehead with his sleeve and moved toward the next failing system far above him, behind thick doors. The Valari women monitored his progress with deep concern. Commander Ryla, tall and composed even under stress, stood with her arms folded. Beside her, Medic Teshari adjusted sensor readings with shaking hands. And biologist Velen watched the monitors with wide, worried eyes. "He is still in the unstable sector," Velen whispered. "This environment is harmful, even for short exposure." "He refuses to leave," Teshari said. "Humans are difficult to predict," Ryla exhaled slowly. "They are resilient," she admitted, "but that does not make them invincible." The 3 women looked at the screen showing Mason's location, his silhouette moving from system to system. Every few seconds, vibration lines trembled across the evidence of structure strain. The station spoke through its alarms, urgent, danger, collapse, approaching yet. Mason kept going. By the time he reached the heat distributor on Deck C, his breaths were shorter and heavier. The air mixture was changing faster than he expected. Still, he knelt beside the glowing unit and started pulling off damaged plates. He could feel the temperature rising through the gloves. I really should have stayed home on Earth, he joked weakly to himself. Could have been fixing coffee machines instead. But he wasn't the type to run. He never had been. Repairing the heat distributor required careful timing. If he unplugged the wrong conduit while the chamber was too hot, the unit could explode. He checked his readings, took a slow breath, then pulled it free with a sharp motion. For a moment, the chamber roared with heat, but he managed to clamp the coolant line in place. The temperature started to fall. One more thing saved, he whispered. But now his body was truly feeling the air problem. His lungs burned slightly each time he inhaled, and the room had a faint metallic taste. Human bodies could adjust, but not forever. He looked at his wrist console. Oxygen, 15% below normal. That's not great, he muttered. But he pushed himself up and kept moving. There were still 2 more systems to stabilize. Meanwhile, in the protected sector, the Valari command room was filled with tension. The women spoke in hushed tones, their voices carrying both worry and frustration. He has been exposed for too long, Medic, Tashari said. A human should begin to show early symptoms soon. Commander Ryla narrowed her eyes. But he has not. It is unusual, Velen whispered, her scientific curiosity mixing with fear. Humans adapt so quickly. Their biology reacts faster than ours. But still, prolonged exposure can be dangerous. It is already dangerous, Tashari insisted, but none of them could force Mason to evacuate. Not from where they were. They could only watch the human who refused to abandon them, back in the damaged corridors. Mason reached the last failing Sistema power relay that connected life support to emergency batteries. Without it, the protected sector might lose oxygen too, and no one wanted to imagine that scenario. The relay was deep inside a wall panel, surrounded by sparking circuits. Mason pulled the protective glove off his right hand so he could move with more precision. Electricity snapped near his fingers as he disconnected the damaged part and replaced it with a spare. His hands moved quickly but carefully, despite the heat and the fumes. It took nearly 10 minutes to complete the repairs. When he finished, he leaned back against the wall, drained. The corridor wasn't shaking as violently anymore. The emergency lights steadied. The worst of the system warnings faded. He had done it. The station was stable enough for rescuers to arrive later. He exhaled, slow, heavy, relieved. But the effort had exhausted him. His eyes felt heavy, and his arms were shaking slightly. He walked a short distance down the corridor, found a small maintenance alcove, and sat on the floor. He knew he should report back. He knew he should walk the long route back to the protected sector, but 30 seconds of rest wouldn't hurt, just 30 seconds. He stretched his legs out, leaned his head back against the wall, and let his eyes drift closed. The air was thin, but his breathing slowly steadied. Before he realized it, he fell asleep. He didn't even remove his toolkit. He didn't activate emergency oxygen. He simply drifted into sleep, unprotected. In an environment no Valari could survive for even 2 minutes. But to him, the exhaustion was stronger than the discomfort. The station grew quiet around him. The lights flickered softly, and Mason Hale, human engineer, slept peacefully in a sector most alien species considered deadly, in the protected chamber. Alarms shifted tone, signaling environment stabilization. The Valari monitoring screen updated station integrity. Stable, breathable atmosphere. Normalizing engineering sector. Human life sign, detected resting. Ryla's eyes widened. He is unconscious? Not unconscious, Valon corrected after checking the feed. He is sleeping. The 3 women stared at the screen, their expressions filled with confusion and disbelief. He slept? Tashari whispered. In that environment? That should not be possible, Velen said softly. No breathable balance. Fluctuating trace gases. Extreme stress levels. No protective gear. Ryla shook her head, astonished. Humans are remarkable. None of them understood how a human body could endure such conditions and still fall asleep as if nothing was wrong. To the Valar, such an act was beyond strange. It was impossible, and for the first time, the alien women realized they still understood very little about the species called human,